Hey everyone, this is Dragon Song 12. I'm here because I have a drawing video that I'd like to talk to you about. If you know me at all, you may know that I primarily work on webcomics. I have three currently in production, and if you know anything about those three comics, you will know that what you are seeing on the screen right now isn't any of them. What this is a project for a zine called Storyboard Zine Volume 2, a zine for original comics that is, they're not related to any fandom and not related to your own worlds, just original short stories. The idea behind it is to be a sprint. You have to work quickly and under deadline to get it done, and that's how you're challenging yourself. As I was working on it, I kind of cheated. What I did was the instant I put in my application, I began work on my project. I reasoned that if I didn't get accepted for the zine, I would just go ahead and do the project on my own for fun. My own challenge was not about meeting deadlines because after doing webcomics for as long as I have, I already know I can meet deadlines. So the idea behind it for myself was a different challenge. I wanted to make something that told a story more visually because I have a bad habit of relying on dialogue when I work on my comics. So this was going to be something where the dialogue didn't really matter, and I wanted to focus on the visuals and most specifically on color. For my own project, the backgrounds were all digitally painted with cel shaded characters on top, and I wanted to use color as an emphasis to kind of tell the story. It was a lot of fun. I was really inspired by the backgrounds of old point and click adventure games, primarily those by Sierra, where you only had about 16 colors to work with, so things you had to use some strange colors in spaces, like caves would sometimes be a bright blue or green, colors you wouldn't really expect, and that's sort of what I was focused on. Now you may be saying to yourself, but Dragon Song, this that I'm seeing on the screen isn't digitally painted, it isn't cel shaded, it isn't in color at all. What are you talking about? And yet again, dear listener, you are correct. So I had finished all of my project, and I turned it in, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. Even got it done a little ahead of schedule. And I was looking on the Storyboard Zine's Discord, and one of the mods had posted an announcement that an artist had dropped out from one of the other groups, and that they needed someone to cover on art duties. They'd done these posts before. I hadn't really paid much attention because I was still in the middle of working on my own project, and it was, pretty time consuming with all the painting and whatnot. But now I was finished, and I don't know why. I just had a moment where I thought to myself, well, I hit deadlines pretty well. Maybe I can help out. So I responded, and I let them know that I'd be willing to pick it up, and they got back to me with the script within, I want to say, just minutes. It was so fast. And so I clicked on the script for this other project, and I gotta give, the writer goes by Rose of Revolt, and I gotta give them a lot of credit. It was a very detailed script. My scripts tend to just be dialogue, which, is probably why my writing is so dialogue focused. It was very detailed, a lot of information on how they wanted the visuals to look. And I was like, oh, this is a really cool idea. This story is a really neat idea. I kind of love it, and I kind of wish it was longer, even though I think it being as short as it is heightens it. And so I was like, oh, this is great. And then my second thought was, oh no, what have I done? I can't draw this. This story was a pretty high concept science fiction story. And if you've seen any of my other work, I primarily work in fantasy, which is a very, very different wheelhouse. They're both genre fiction, but, one's very technical and one is not. I'm not the biggest fan of my own style, quote unquote style. It's not stylized enough to be called stylized, and it's not realistic enough to be called realistic. So it just sits in this nebulous middle ground where it doesn't really fit in anywhere. So I read this really cool science fiction story and I'm like, oh, what have I done to this poor author who spent all this time crafting this script and now they've got me. Still, the situation was what it was. I had already been assigned to this particular project. There wasn't really any time for me to back out and for someone else to be put in that position. I asked the mod what our new deadline was, and it was 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks to do 8 pages. So there wasn't really any time for sitting around stressing about it, stressing about what I could and couldn't do. I had to just do my best as quickly as possible. It is a little funny, though, that at the end of the day, I did end up doing exactly what the zine was intended to do. With a 3 week deadline, this was indeed a sprint. So I started getting to work. I started putting together some concept art for what the characters might look like, some little sketches together for Rose of Revolt to approve. And while I was working on that, I started thinking about how exactly I wanted to approach this project. We had very limited time, and the storyboard zine would accept basically any level of completion. So at first, I seriously considered just doing it in pencil. It'd be very quick. I could do cleaned up pencils, but still pencil nonetheless. But the more I thought about doing that, the more I honestly kind of hated the idea. Like, this was a project that someone had already put a lot of work into, and I really wanted to honor that work by making sure they had finished pages, not something that looked half done. So I ultimately made the decision to go with black and white. I wasn't really considering doing the full hashed shading like I do with my own black and white comic. Uh, just flat blacks and whites, just to move it along more quickly. I was also considering initially doing it entirely by hand. I do have a black and white comic that I draw with pens by hand. So that's just what I'm more comfortable with. That's where I'm happy to work, and I understand that a lot better. But working by hand, you're missing a few things. You don't have an undo button, you don't have layers. So ultimately, I decided to do the inking digitally just to help things move along a little more swiftly. Like you can see in this footage that it I use the undo button and the layers pretty liberally to help this move along more quickly. And it was a very interesting thing to do, to work on someone else's project. That's not something I do a lot, and honestly, the experience was really great. Like I said, the script was very detailed. I understood very well what the author was looking for, and when you're working on something for yourself, it's easy to hand wave things. It's easy to, I've got a deadline coming up. This background doesn't look great, but I gotta finish this page and move forward. It's fine. It's fine. We can just move ahead. But when you're working on something for someone else, and especially in a situation like this where it's coming down to the wire, and you're stuck with some stranger who's just coming in the last minute with no real understanding of all the work that's already been put into it, and you just want to see the project done to fruition. I didn't think that good enough was good enough in this scenario. I really wanted to make sure the pages were good, or at the very least, the best I could do, so that it would be honoring all the hard work that had already gone into this project. Okay, so now how do I start moving on this? I've got 3 weeks to work with, and I work a full-time job. And in addition, I also have my own webcomics to work on. They update 1 page per week. There's 3 of them. So in the 3 week span of this project, I would have to do 9 pages. This is basically doubling my workload. And you might be, if you know me, you might ask yourself, well, why not just use your buffer pages? Because I do work ahead. I have about a 2 month buffer on all of my comics in case something comes up. I can skip a week of working, but still get the comic updated on time. Couldn't I just use those? Yup. So anyway, here's what I did instead. I just started. I have a schedule for my comics that I do each week. I have certain deadlines that I have to meet every single every single day. Monday I do this, Tuesday I do this, Thursday, Friday, etc. So what I ended up doing was I set hard lines for my own comics. I did those first. That is my priority. Um, but then at a certain point of the night, either a certain amount of work done on my comics or reaching a certain time, I would stop working on that and just immediately transition over to working on the storyboard project. And I was just every single free moment that I had during those 3 weeks, I was working on this. I was um, like I usually read before going to bed at night, and I was just bringing my notebook into my room and doing that before bed instead of reading. I had like a dentist appointment one of the days, so I was leaving home an hour later, and I was like, aha, an extra hour that I can work. It was a little bit of madness, if I'm being honest. So why am I talking about all this? Is it to make you feel bad for me for all the work I did, or is it to humble brag for all I was doing? Maybe a little bit of humble brag. I think I can be a little bit proud of myself for my time management during these 3 weeks because I did get it done on time. But the real reason I'm talking about it is because you guys, it was so much fun. Like just the challenge of it, the work, the doing something different, the trying to meet someone else's expectations. I enjoyed every moment of this to the extent that when I finished the final page and posted it, I had this like moment where I was still raring to go. I was like, I need to be working on something. How can I be done? I need to keep going. I enjoy working on stuff so much. This was a real joy. I'm so glad I did it. I'm not sure if I'll do another zine at all. And if I do, it won't be for a while. This was a lot of work, but it was such a great experience. I'm so glad that I did my own portion, and I'm so glad that I volunteered for this that you're watching me work on right now. Oh, and if you're wondering, Dragon Song, why didn't you record your own work instead of putting someone else's work here on screen? The answer to that is I didn't think of it. I didn't have these programs downloaded. I didn't know how to use them. I didn't think of it. If I had, I absolutely would have. I really wish I had footage of me working on that. I think some of the pages came out really good, and I wish I could show off the process of those. Maybe something similar will come up in the future. I have a few ideas. And that's also why you're getting this page, which is towards the end of this story instead of one of the earlier ones. If you're thinking to yourself, didn't you say this was a sci-fi story? Doesn't I think I see some fantasy elements in this page? You know what? Read the comic itself. I'm putting the link down in the description of this video. Go ahead, read the storybook zine. I've got 2 entries in it technically, although the story of this one isn't mine. And there's a whole bunch of other comics. There's so much to read in it. Go ahead, give it a look. It'll be down in the comments. Please, please give it a check out. Um, I'm probably going to be doing some more of these types of videos now that I know how. I know the quality is not great. I'm using free programs. I'm recording this on a headphone mic, of all things. That's why it sounds so bad. But I do want to just be able to talk about some of the things I think about my comics and about art and media in general. So expect to see some more of these things. If you stuck through to the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed watching the process of this page, and I hope to see you again.